Hey guys, it's Kim. I'm back and we are talking about The Crown of Gilded Bones, which is book number 3 in the Blood and Ash series. So the first book was From Blood and Ash. The second book is A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, which has a secret meaning. And the third book, the most recent, which just released on 4/20, is The Crown of Gilded Bones. It is right now, I believe, sitting at number 1 on Amazon, which, whoop, whoop, got Jennifer. It is let me show you. My Kindle app was being weird, so I just had to pull it up on Amazon. But this is the cover, The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout, who is one of my queens, who I love dearly. Let me just go ahead and get this out because we're going to need it. So obviously this is a 5-star for me because I love Jennifer. I love the series, so it's 5-star. It is a fantasy romance. Our main character is Poppy or Penelope. This one picks up exactly where the other one left off, which the other one left off in a complete WTF moment, and this one picks up in a complete WTF moment. The first, 25% of the book is just like, what is going on? Sound like Stuart's mom. What's going on? And then, the next 25% is like, okay, we're just kind of plodding along. All right. And then the whole rest of the book is just like, wait a minute, what? Wait, what? And the last 25% is like, holy beep, 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 beep. Yes, because it is, y'all, oh my God. This book, it's so good. Whew, honey. Okay. So, like I said, it picks up where the other one left off. We get Poppy and Cass, who is our OTP, right? Cass is Poppy's love interest. They face new challenges, both personally and with their relationship. There's a lot of character growth that happens. That's one way to put it. There's a lot of mysteries that come to light. We get a lot of questions answered, and y'all, if you have not read it, you are not ready, because I was not, because the answers that we got was like, wait, what? Wait, hold on. I gotta reread that. Wait a minute. We learn the truth about a lot of things that we have not known or thought we knew up until this point. We finally find out what Poppy is. These whole last 2 books, these whole 1,200 pages, we've been like, but what is Poppy? We finally find out what Poppy is. We find out what happened to cause all the contention. Because, in the first book, and I love this about the first book, is we're just kind of dropped into this world and we have no idea how it got there, what happened, or, who these people are in relation to each other and why they don't like each other. We don't know, right? So we finally get the answers to that. We finally find out who Queen Ileana is, or what she is, and what her relationship is to Poppy, why she made Poppy the maiden. We find out what happened to Malik and Malik, because, those two have been, out in the ether. We didn't really know what happened to them, and so we find out what happens to them. We see Poppy, I was going to say we finally see the culmination of Poppy, but who knows, because she might grow and change even more in the next book. We don't know, but it's nice. We finally see Poppy kind of become who she was meant to be, and to kind of own herself, and to go from being this very reserved and nervous. And, when she was the maiden, she wasn't allowed to express herself. She wasn't allowed to talk to people, to touch people. So we see her go from this very sheltered and traumatized person to this badass, just warrior queen. And I'm here for it. And the end of the book literally was everything. I love the whole book, but the last page literally made the book. It was just oh God, I cried. I cried because I was like, yes. and so if any of you love Game of Thrones, have watched Game of Thrones, let me just say that D&D may have ruined the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, but Jennifer Armentrout saved it. Jennifer Armentrout gave us the ending we always wanted to Game of Thrones in The Crown of Gilded Bones. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there that in my mind, in my imagination, I have taken The Crown of Gilded Bones, and that is now the ending to Game of Thrones. And that's it. You can't tell me any different. Okay, so that is the spoiler-free review of The Crown of Gilded Bones, right? From here on out, it's spoiler city. So this is your chance to turn around now so you don't get spoiled. Spoilers. Okay. All right. So, y'all remember in the last book, like it ended with Poppy's in the temple. These people are trying to kill her. Poppy, like, flips her goddess switch, right? And, like, kills all these people. Okay. And then the queen and king are there. The queen puts her crown down on the ground and says, everybody bow to the queen. You're just like, wait, what? What is happening here? Okay. That is where we pick up. Okay. So they're in the temple. Poppy is like kind of weaving, like she ain't too steady on her feet. Castile goes to move towards her, but Jasper and Kieran and all the Wolven are like growling at them. Like they are all protecting Poppy and they look like they are ready to bite somebody at a moment's notice. So Poppy has broken all the Wolven bonds to all the Wolven in all of Atlantia, okay? Whatever happened snapped all the bonds and now all the Wolven are bonded to Poppy. Okay. And of course, like poor Poppy, you know, you read this book and it's like, man, poor Poppy, like, is just always trying to be nice and do the right thing and do right by people. But inevitably, because they're like, well, she broke all the Wolven bonds. Like, well, she wasn't trying to. She was just trying not to die. That's what Poppy was doing. So, Cass is like, talking to the Wolven. He's like, you know, she's injured. I need to check on her. Let me by. And the wolves are like, nah, brah. Nope. You ain't coming nowhere near our queen. So, Poppy has to order them to like stand down. And when she does, then they let Cass go to her. So Cass goes to Poppy and he's like touching her face. And Jasper, who is Kieran's dad, sends the other Wolven away. Jasper tells him, he's like, we'll go to my house. Like, you can stay in your old rooms because Cass has rooms at their house. And he's like, you know, we'll protect Cass. Just because Poppy's like, well, now don't be eating my husband. And they're like, oh, no, we'll protect him just as fiercely as we protect you, as long as he's not a threat to you. And at that moment, we will all bite him. So Cass sends Delano, Niall, and Emil to go find Beckett. He's like, somebody find Beckett. I want him found alive. So Cass orders Alistair, shady ass Alistair. Cass orders Alistair to be seized. And I was like, finally, that's what I wrote in my notebook. Finally, in big giant letters. And then Alistair is just like talking, just running that mouth. I wrote something bad in my notebook, y'all. I wrote STFU ass hat. So there's this whole back and forth about Cass and Poppy and the king and queen. And the king is like, well, maybe Alistair should be kept somewhere for his own safety. Like, in other words, yeah, go ahead and seize him and put him somewhere where he can't get away. And Alistair's still like, you know, mouthing off. And then he tells the guards to protect the king and queen. So the guards move to get in front of the king and queen. Jasper jumps because they were already kind of like on a hair trigger, you know what I'm saying? And then the guards move and it just sets things in motion. So Jasper jumps to go after the guards. They shoot him with some kind of arrow. He turns gray and goes down. Then Kieran jumps to protect Poppy, and somebody shoots him and he goes down. And then Cass there's a lot of cuss words in my journal, y'all. It just says, holy effing beep. Then they shoot Cass, and then it's in even bigger letters, holy effing beep. So now Jasper, Kieran, and Cass are like laying on the ground, frozen and gray, like they're made out of concrete or something. Poppy goes off, which I was like, go off, sis. Go off, because these people ain't listening. Go off. So Poppy goes off. She's fighting people left and right. Then she uses her powers, or she starts to use her powers. And Alistair's like, see, I'm not the threat to Atlantia. You are. You're a monster, just like all the other ones, or something like that. Because Alistair's just a, I hate him. Anyway, somebody hits her on the head and knocks her out. So when she wakes up, she is in a freaking crypt. And she's restrained with like these bone chains. They're like chains made out of bone and vine. I'm not kidding y'all. This freaking chains made out of bones and vines, okay? she's sitting next to a freaking skeleton that's restrained the same way she is. So, you know, like you wake up and you're chained up and you look over and there's a skeleton chained up the same way you are. You're like, it's not looking too good. So she looks around and the room is like full of skeletons, like all the way around the room on all the walls. It's full of skeletons bound the same way that she is. So Poppy is like, you know what? I'm going to kill this mofo. Alistair is dead. And I'm like, yes, please, Poppy. Like, I mean, get out first, but then kill Alistair. Right. Okay. So she starts to work on her bindings, and then a male voice says, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And he tells her that those are the bones of the ancients, of deities, and that they're imbued with power. And so like they're magic bone chains or whatever, and they'll just get like tighter and tighter until they actually cut through her flesh and bone if she fights it. So he tells her that all the people in the crypt were too powerful, and so they had to be contained. So the man steps closer, and it's freaking Commander Jansen. You remember the dissenter that was supposed to be like the commander of the army at Duke and Duchess Tyrman's castle or whatever, where Poppy was. So it's Commander Jansen, who's supposed to be dead. So then he changes, and it's Beckett. And so it was him that led her to the temple, not the real Beckett, which kind of, it's like you're happy because, I don't know about y'all, but like it hurt my feelings that Beckett betrayed Poppy. I was like, no, Beckett, no. Like it hurt my feelings, but then at the same time you're like sad because he's like, oh yeah, the real Beckett's dead. We killed him. Like, oh my God. Yeah. So he calls himself a true guardian, and Poppy's like, you pale in comparison to the actual guardians of Atlantia, and he smacks her. And so then she says something else smart because she's Poppy, and he knocks her out. So then she wakes up, and Alistair comes in and tells her that he was there the night her parents were killed. And she's like, you killed my parents. He's like, no, but I would have. He said, okay. So he makes it sound like, and I don't know, and I put this in parentheses in my notebook, I think they've been killing off all of Malik's descendants over the years. Because it sounds like Alistair was basically hunting down anybody that could be from Malik's line and killing them. But, I mean, I don't think we ever find that out for sure. So he tells her that her mother was one of the queen's handmaidens and her guard. Like, apparently, all the queen's handmaidens are actually these, like, trained freaking female ninja warriors, and her mom was one. And he tells her that it wasn't him that betrayed her parents, but he would have killed her parents and her if it meant protecting Atlantia, basically. So he says that somebody led the Craven to the inn, and I will say that this does not get cleared up by the end of the book. So we still do not know at the end of the book who led the Craven to the inn that Poppy was staying in with her parents, right? Me personally, I wonder, they keep saying it's the Dark One, which everybody thought was Cass, but obviously it wasn't Cass because Cass was imprisoned when this happened. So I think that it's either Malik, or it is possibly one of Malik's other descendants. I don't know. We don't know. Like I said, we don't find out before the end of the book. Anyway. He says that somebody led the Craven to the inn, that it wasn't him, and that Alistair basically just let whatever happened happen. And Alistair can't shift anymore because he broke his bonds. So he plans to give her to the Ascended. So here's Alistair's plan. His plan was, I'll get Poppy away from Atlantia so she can't claim the throne. And I'll give her to the Ascended. The Ascended will try to use her to make more Ascended. She will then fight the Ascended. They will all kill each other, 2 birds, 1 stone. This is what Alistair's plan is. This is what he's thinking. So she asks, you know, if the king and queen know, and he's like, no, they didn't know what Alistair was up to, but that basically if they give him a hard time, he'll kill them too. If they get in the way, he'll kill them too. Yeah. Yeah, Alistair's like. So he thinks Poppy will, I told you, will fight the Ascended, and that they'll kill her, and then he won't have to worry about her anymore. So someone brings Poppy food. Like, she's been down there for days, right? With no food, no water. So she's starving, she's thirsty. So they bring her some food. It's laced with drugs, so she gets knocked out. When she wakes up, she's on a slab, still like confined with the freaking bone vine chain things. and they're in the wastelands. And so they go to these ruins of this castle, and they're waiting to meet the Ascended. And carriage pulls up, a woman gets out, she comes right up to Poppy, and then she gets shot through the chest with a crossbow. It's the Wolven. They have come to save Poppy, and I'm like, yay! So Kieran comes, King Valin, which is Cass's father, shows up, and he's fighting too. Kieran's trying to get Poppy loose. She tells him about Alistair, Jansen, and Beckett. Cass still comes in like death itself, honey. Like this, just like the angel of death, killing folks left and right. And I was here for it. Yes, I was. Okay. So they caught Alistair. Poppy starts to use her powers, but then stops herself because she's like, I don't want to be the monster that Alistair claims I am, so I'm not going to use my powers. So instead, she grabs the sword, or Kieran gives her a sword. Anyway, she has a sword, and she goes to, like, kill Jansen, and Jansen shoots her in the chest with a crossbow. Yes. 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 Ugh. Yeah. And it's like, I knew, because it's so early in the book, like, I'm like, okay, well, I know Poppy's not, like, going to be, like, gone, forever gone, because we're too early in the book, but I still don't want to see Poppy die. You know what I'm saying? But Cass is trying to, like, save her and give her his blood, and it's not working, because she got shot in the chest with a crossbow bolt. It's like lightning, a blood ash tree pops up, because, you know, wherever Poppy's blood gets spilled, freaking blood ash tree pops up. So Cass decides to ascend her, and his father is, like, trying to stop him. The Wolven actually form, like, a perimeter around Cass and Poppy and protect them so that Cass can ascend Poppy. So Poppy wakes up in a bed. Kieran is sitting in a chair, like, keeping watch. All of a sudden, Poppy jumps on Kieran and tries to eat him. Yes. Y'all, oh my God. Jen posted this freaking teaser on her Instagram that says, I'm sorry I tried to eat you. And I thought it was Kieran talking to Poppy, that, like, maybe in Wolven form he had attacked her or something. I never in a million years thought it was Poppy trying to eat Kieran. But Poppy tries to eat Kieran, y'all. So Cass comes in and grabs her, and then he gives her his wrist, and she drinks. And, like, Cass and Kieran are looking at her, and they're like, well, her eyes are still green. Like, her eyes are, you know, because the Ascended all have black eyes. And Kieran's like, and I still feel it's called the primal notum. Primal notum. I don't know how you say it. But anyway, it's the bond that she has to the Wolven. And if she had become an Ascended, she wouldn't still have that. So Cass sets her in his lap and is like rubbing her head while she drinks his blood. And he's like talking to her and soothing her. And then Poppy starts like rubbing against Cass. And Cass is like, oh girl, we can do the thing. And like moves the clothes out the way. And they're doing the things. And she's still drinking on him. And the next thing you know, here comes Kieran. Has to like grab her and break her hold on Cass's wrist. So yeah, Kieran was in the room for that. Poor Kieran. Like the things he has to do with these two. So, I'm looking to see. Oh, I wrote in my journal, yeah, poor Kieran was here for the booty. So Poppy's memories like come flooding back, and her emotions. And she calls his name, and Buddy wrote, it is on like a Donkey Kong. I wrote in my journal, rough sex, ring the bell, yes please, and thank you. Ding, 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 ding. Jen writes good steam. So she tells him that she loves him because she's never said it. She's never said she loves him. So she actually tells him she loves him and calls him Cass. And it's just like so sweet. And he tells her that he loves her. And he says that he's sorry, that he wanted her to feel welcome and safe in her new home. Not, you know, everybody tried to kill her the first day she's there. So Poppy's like, I tried to eat Kieran. He's like, yeah, I don't think he'll mind. It's okay. And she's like, I tried to eat Kieran naked. He's like, yeah, that's probably why he won't mind. And it was just this really funny moment. So then Poppy goes outside to see if she can stand the sunlight, because, you know, the Ascended can't be out in the sunlight. And Cass is behind her trying to stop her because they don't know what's going to happen when she walks out in the sunlight, right? But Poppy is like, well, let's see if I die when I go in the sunlight. Poppy goes charging for the balcony. So she walks out on the balcony, sees Delano. Delano is like laughing in wolf form. And then Poppy realizes that she's still naked. And she's like, I'm naked. And Cass is like, yeah, and I wish you would keep us in the house. So Cass gives her some clothes and they get dressed. And like, he wants to hear what happened. He's like, tell me everything that happened. He brings Kieran in and so Kieran can hear it too. So everybody knows what's going on. And Poppy's like, I'm sorry I tried to eat you. And he's like, it's okay. And she's like, I have questions. And he's like, of course you do. Of course you do. So she asks about the primal Notam, and Kieran tells her that the gods gave the Kiyu, which is what the Wolven were called before, the Kiyu, mortal form. So they were just wolves. And then they were given mortal form, which is their human bodies, to serve the gods and protect their children. And since Poppy is a child of the gods, the bond recognizes her instinctually. So as soon as she kind of awakened or the culling or whatever, it snapped that bond into place. So Poppy tells Cass and Kieran everything, and there's this really like touching moment between the three of them, just kind of like cementing their bond, their friendship. And then Kieran tells Cass about her saying she doesn't want to be a monster, and Cass is like, what is that about? And she tells him about the bodies in the crypt. And Kieran says, you'll have a good 1,000 years before you have to take a nap. It's fine. So apparently the problem with those deities in the crypt was that they never, like, they stayed alive too long and basically lost their humanity. And so they're saying like, oh, once you get to 1,000 years old, you basically need to take a nap, like reset your brain so you don't be evil. So she asks if she's immortal now, because in her mind, you know, she always thought that she was immortal and Cass was an Atlantean and Cass would outlive her. But now she's concerned that she's going to outlive Cass. So she asks if she's immortal, and Kieran and Cass tell her that she doesn't feel or smell like a mortal anymore, that she smells like absolute power. So Cass's ancestor called a god to help relations between the Wolven and the Atlanteans after the war. I don't know if it's the War of the Two Kings or if it was the War of, well, it can't be the War of Two Kings. So it had to be the one before that, the war between the deities and the Atlanteans. And it was Nyktos and Theon and Layla that came and met with the Atlanteans and made the bonding happen. And the very first Atlantean to bond to a Wolven was Cass's ancestor. So Cass tells her that she's not a monster. She tells him about Alistair and her parents. Cass tells her they left Alistair alive for her. Yes. See, that's, ladies, right there. See that? That man could have killed Alistair, right? Had every right to kill Alistair because what Alistair did to his girl. But he's like, no, I'm going to let my girl kill you. So he left her. That's a real man right there. He left Alistair for Poppy to kill. So they go through the Skotos Mountains, get through the mist, and the mist like parts for them. You know, remember before they were kind of enveloped by the mist, and it actually made Poppy like have some hallucinations and stuff. But this time the mist actually parts for them because it recognizes Poppy. So when they get to Eos, which is where she almost walked off the cliff and that goddess saved her, the leaves on the tree were gold. Now they're red. And so they go to the temple where Alistair's being held. And Poppy keeps seeing this woman. Like, there's this woman that keeps appearing to her with like silver hair and silver eyes. And she keeps telling Poppy stuff. She saw her, you know, she saw her at the temple. And then she saw her again, I think, when she was in the crypt. So, and she looks similar to Poppy. So anyway, they talk to the king first, and he won't tell them what's, like, they won't, because Cass's dad, because he fought with the Wolven, is at the temple keeping watch on Alistair when they get there. They talk to him and, like, tell him what's going on, like, well, so what's going on with Poppy? And he's like, I think we should wait and talk to your mom, which is like, y'all up to something. So he goes home. Cass goes in the crypt and get Alistair. Alistair thinks Poppy died since Cass is by himself. So he's just like mouthing off about how much better the kingdoms are going to be and blah, 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 blah. So then Emil comes to get Poppy so they can surprise Alistair. And he starts talking smack as soon as he sees Poppy. Like, Alistair has learned nothing, okay? Poppy cuts his throat. Kieran howls and calls all the Wolven, and they eat Alistair. And I'm like, bye, Felicia. So they get back to Atlantia and Scion's Cove, and Poppy is thinking that she can use her wedding to Cass to face the Ascended and force them to change. But there's that woman tells her that war can't always be avoided. So as they're riding through the city, people come out to greet them. And then they start bowing and saying, Mia Liesa, which means my queen. And I write in my journal, I said, oh, I'm tearing up because it reminds me of the Misa episode of Game of Thrones. It does. It reminds me. Do y'all remember when in Game of Thrones, when Khaleesi, Daenerys, got rid of all the chains. She took care of the masters. She killed all the masters, and then all the people come out. We're calling her Misa, which means mother. So anyway, they make it to Jasper's house, and all the wolven shift and put their fists to their chest and go down on one knee and bow and say Mia Liesa. So they go to Cass's rooms, and he shows her the shower, because Poppy's never seen a shower because they didn't have running water in that is terrible. That's terrible. I can't think of where Poppy's from. They ain't got no running water. No running hot water. So she sees herself for the first time. They kind of have this sweet moment because Poppy look a hot mess, okay? And they just kind of have this talk about changes and how those changes don't change how they feel about each other. And it's just really cute. And so Cass helps her undress and tells her that the inscription on their wedding rings it's old Atlantean. It means always and forever. And he tells her that they can be real with each other because he's like, Poppy, how are you? I'm checking in, how are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm okay. And he's like, no, but really, how are you? She's like, no, I'm okay. And so he tells her, he's like, we can be real with each other, and it's okay for you to not be okay when you're around me. We can be real with each other. And so she ends up crying and kind of letting everything out. And Cass is holding her, and she's wrapped around him while she cries, and it's just the most precious thing. And then he takes her to the shower, y'all. And I wrote in my journal, this is it, people. This is what we've been waiting for. Poppy meet hot showers. So Cass washes her hair and her body in the shower, and then he does all the things with his mouth. All of the things. Yes. Mm-hmm. And he says honeydew. Of course he does. And then he dries her off and puts her in bed, and he gives her her dagger and makes a joke about stabbing people. When she wakes up, Cass is gone to talk with his dad, and Kieran's sitting with her, and they talk and kind of have this whole moment. And she tells him about hearing his and Delano's thoughts and about sensing Delano's mark, the mark that makes him who he is. So he gets her to try him, and so she's able to sense Kieran's mark. And then they try communicating telepathically, and it works. So Kieran tells her that it makes sense because Nyktos would have had to been able to communicate telepathically with the Kiyu because they weren't in mortal form. So Kieran hears something because he's got wolven hearing, right? So he tells Poppy to stay put. She doesn't. They're outside. She's literally outside in Castiel's shirt. Yes. So the lights come on, and there's a dissenter. There's a person wearing a dissenter mask, okay? And then there's more people wearing a dissenter mask, except Poppy can't feel any emotions from them. It's like they're dead. So there's a man on the wall who is alive, who's not dead, and he has one of those bone chains, and he calls her the Harbinger of Death. And Poppy's like, not with them bone chains. No, you're not. So Poppy and Kieran start fighting, and all she's got's a freaking dagger. So they start fighting and stab the dead things, and black oily stuff comes out, and they just explode in dust and oily black stuff. And Poppy pulls the mask off of one, and there's no face, just slits for eyes. And Poppy's like, what is it? How does it even breathe? And Kieran's like, now is not the time for questions. And I'm just laughing because, of course, in the middle of a battle, Poppy's like, but what is that? And Kieran's like, I swear to God, this girl with her questions. So Kieran says they're germs, they're germs. I don't know how, it's GYRMS. And they don't belong in this realm. So Cass's father shows up, and Cass, they're both covered in goo. Cass kisses Poppy, and Poppy looks, but that man is gone. But he knew about, because he said something about Lockswood, so, which is the village where her parents were attacked. So King Valin, Cass's father, tells them that they aren't dissenters, that the dissenters wear their masks to hide their faces, but they weren't the first, the Unseen were. So Cass says the Unseen were disbanded or killed before the War of the Two Kings, but evidently they were not, because they're here. So the Unseen formed when the deities were around, because apparently the deities worried. The deities wanted to bring all the lands, Atlantia and the Blood Kingdom, Blood Crown, whatever, all the under one kingdom. That's what they wanted. Everybody under one thing. But, and they used the Unseen, so it was these people that, you know, whenever they would carry out their tasks, they would wear masks. Because they were spies. So obviously if they went around showing their face, nobody would trust them or people would kill them. So they wore these masks, and they were used to like crush any rebellions. And the Unseen swore an oath to Atlantia, not to the king and queen, but to the country. So then they turned on the deities, and they're thinking the Unseen are behind some of the unrest in Atlantia, because there's been like fires and vandalisms and stuff, and they think that's coming from the Unseen. So back in the rooms, Cass and Poppy and Kieran are all cleaning up, and they're talking through what happened. And Kieran points out that Poppy's parents could not be her birth parents, or that what she was told about them wasn't true. And so Kieran leaves out, and Cass feeds from Poppy while he does the things with his mouth on her chest, and it is very hot. Then after, Jasper, Kieran, Cass, and Poppy are all in the sitting room talking, and Kieran gets one of his old school books about Atlantia, and they figure out that the creatures, the Gurms, are like golems, so they're summoned from dirt and magic, and then once they serve their purpose, they disappear. So they tell her that Nyktos has a consort, and that that's how his children came to be. So Jasper tells them that Elysium is the, like, I guess where the land of the gods is at, and that lies beyond the mountains of Nyktos. That they just basically told everybody that the mountains just go on and on forever, and it's uninhabitable land, until it just became a common belief, so people wouldn't go there. So it's protected by land and by sea by the mist. And Kieran and Cass tried to go there one time on a boat to see if there was habitable land, and they almost drowned, because of course they did. They're discussing who might know a way to get into Elysium. And Jasper mentions Wilhelmina, a.k.a. Miss Willa Collins, a.k.a. the keeper of the journal. You know what I'm saying? So, Cass and Poppy have this, like, snarky moment, because she's like, don't you do it, because you know Cass loves to bring up the freaking journal. And so then Kieran tells Jasper, his dad, that Willa wrote a sex book, and it's Poppy's favorite. And it's just like so fun, because every time somebody brings up this journal, they're like, oh yeah, she wrote a sex book, it was Poppy's favorite book. So Jasper tells them that there's a tunnel system that goes straight from Evamon, which is the capital, to Elysium. So the next morning, Poppy and Cass are like talking about their next steps in the future, and he's like, you know, I'll be with you no matter what you decide to do, because Poppy is descended from the gods. She has more of a claim to Atlantia than anybody, okay? And that's why the queen set her crown down. But Poppy doesn't want to be queen. And Poppy's like, she really has to, like, think about it. And she's talking to Cass, and Cass is like, I'll be with you no matter what you want to do. So anyway, Delano knocks, and there's been this carriage accident, and this little girl was injured. So when they get there, like, the little girl is almost gone. And so Poppy's trying to heal her, but, like, the little girl actually dies while Poppy's trying to heal her. And Poppy literally brings her back from the dead. So when she gets up, everybody's kneeling, doing the bow thing with their hand to their chest. And Cass takes Poppy in an alley, and it's like, that was so hot, you're a goddess. And then, sexy times. Then they're walking through the city, and Cass and Kieran take her into this museum, because she was never allowed to go in museums where she was at before. So they're in this museum, and there's a painting of Nyktos, and at his 2 feet are 2 cave cats. And Poppy's like, oh, I saw a cave cat like that when I was little. And they're like, no, all the cave cats died out. She's like, no, I saw a cave cat in a cage. And they said that the cave cats were used to represent Nyktos' children. So when the sun sets, they're walking on the beach. Delano tells them there's a wedding celebration, so they head that way. Delano asks Poppy to dance. She does. And then she's dancing with Kieran and then Cass, because Cass is getting jealous. And the Wolven are all going off their separate ways to do their thing and have their sexy times. And Poppy is watching. And Cass is explaining what's happening while he does the things with his hand. So then she gets Cass to take her somewhere private so she can do the things with her mouth that she saw Lyra doing to Kieran. And that she read about in Miss Willa Collins' journal. So the next day, Cass takes Poppy to see Kira, which is Kieran and Vanetta's mama. Vanetta's mom, okay. Before they leave to meet Cass's parents. So they meet Cass's parents. His mom hugs him. There's like this really sweet moment. But then the mom starts condescending him for ascending Poppy. And Poppy's like, I didn't escape one crown to be silenced by another. And I was like, yes, girl, yes. So Poppy gives her what for? Yes, queen. And then Poppy tells the queen, she's like, you know what? I didn't choose to be a maiden. I didn't choose to be attacked or kidnapped. I didn't choose to be descended from deities or to take the crown. The only thing I have ever chosen for myself is your son. And I was like, so the mom actually apologizes and then and tells both of them that they're right. So they all sit down and talk, and Queen Eloana, pay attention to that one, tells Poppy that she shares abilities with Malik. She's like, Malik has got to be your father because you look just like him. Now, Malik was Eliana's first husband. He was the king of Atlantia. He is the son of Nyktos. Okay? Then he ascended his mistress, Isbeth, was kicked out of Atlantia, and then started the War of the Two Kings. Okay? So I'm like, holy crap, because Eloana, who was married to Malik, is like, Malik's got to be your father. You look just like him and you guys have similar abilities. So Cass asks his parents about Lockswood and Poppy's parents, and apparently Alistair told them what he had done after the fact, but they didn't know anything about it beforehand. So Eloana says that she hunted down Malik after the war and entombed him with bone chains, and that was 400 years ago, so he would have had to have been dead by the time Poppy was born. Well, then how can he be her father? Anyway, so I wrote in my journal, what the what? So Malik was Nyktos', this is what they think. This is what Eloana thinks, that Malik was Nyktos' grandchild, so therefore Poppy is Nyktos' great-grandchild. In actuality, Malik, I think, was Nyktos' son. I don't know. It's a site coming out in October. We're going to find out. So they ask where he's entombed, and Eloana's like, well, it was so long ago, I don't remember, but there would have to, and the land has changed, so I don't know, but there would probably be blood trees everywhere. And Poppy's like, the blood forest with all the craven and the giant rats, those barats from The Princess Bride. So Poppy asks about the trees changing, and they said that they used to be red, and they changed to gold when Malik was dethroned, and now they're red again because a deity is in line with the throne. So they think that Poppy is a deity, okay? So Poppy says she needs to destroy the blood crown, and the queen asks Poppy to go for a walk, and they do. And she calls Ileana, who is the queen of the bad people, the Ascended, the queen of blood and ash. So Eloana tells her that Malik wasn't a bad man, he was just a man who became lost. And Eloana asks about Cass kidnapping her and the plan, and Poppy tells her about Ian. So they talk about Malik, and the queen asks what the plan is, and Poppy tells her, and she's like, Ileana and Jalara cannot live, and Poppy's like, I'm cool with that. So the queen tells her they've already been preparing for war, that they've mobilized units, and they plan to just wipe out the Ascended. And Poppy's like, well, you can't do that because so many people, like if you just have all-out war, like so many innocent people will get lost and hurt and lose their homes and crops and, all those things. And the queen's like, well, if you don't want war, then you should accept the crown so you can stop that. So Eloana tells Poppy to take a few days to get to know Atlantia and then make up her mind. Like, she wasn't like ugly about it. She was just kind of like, well, you could stop it if you take the crown. So then Cass and Valyn show up with Venetta. The Ascended have shown up at Spessa's Inn and requesting an audience. It's Ian, which is Poppy's brother. So, Poppy hasn't seen her brother in years, and supposedly Ian was Ascended, but nobody really knows because nobody's seen him. So Poppy starts to lose it, starts to lose her hold on her powers. Cass and Kieran have to calm her down. Cass and Poppy are going to Spessa's Inn to speak with Ian. Kieran and the Wolven are going, including Venetta and Jasper. So they make it to Spessa's Inn, and Cass is talking to Poppy about Ian and her power and what it could do to her if she has to fight her brother. And he's like, I don't want you to have to go through that. So, of course, they have to have some sexy times. And Cass is doing the things with his hand, and then Poppy literally pushes him down and is like, no, I'm finna do my thing. And I was like, get it, girl. So, then he flips her and puts her on her belly, and she's harder, and he's like, yes, my queen. And I was like, yes, my king. So he makes her promise that if it's not safe, that she'll, that she'll back off. And so she promises. So they go out and meet, excuse me, y'all. They go out to meet Ian, her brother. And when he exits the carriage, his eyes are black, which is the eyes of the Ascended. So he is an Ascended. So she kind of it's this moment where, I think she had this hope that Ian would still be the same old Ian. And then she sees him get out of the carriage, and that hope kind of deflates. But then he tells her that Tawny and Malik are safe, that Queen Ileana and King Jalar want to meet with them in a fortnight. And he tells her that they have no hope against what the Queen has created, the Revenants. And Ian asks her for a hug goodbye. So she does, and when she hugs him, he whispers in her ear for her to wake up Nyktos' guards, because that's the only way that they can stop the Blood Crown. So she kind of gets her hope back that, okay, so Ian's not a bad Ascended. So back in the house, they're all discussing what was said. Then she and Cass speak alone, and she decides that she'll take the crown so they can stop the war. So that night, Poppy dreams about Lockswood and the Dark One. I wrote in my notebook, who is it? Is it Malik? Is it Malik? So Cass sends a Wolven ahead to let the Queen and King know that they're coming. And so they head for the capital. They stop for the night at this inn, and they have casseroles. And so Jen literally put a freaking casserole joke in the freaking book. So if y'all don't know, there was something in Jaylanders, and I think this is how it got started. I don't know, because it's been going on so long, I don't really remember. I think that somebody at some point said Cass is a snack, and somebody else said, no, he's a whole meal. He's a whole casserole. And so then it became this, Cass's nickname is Casserole. And so there's this whole joke at the end about meat casserole, and Poppy does not get it. Poppy has no clue. And I wrote in my notebook, we get it, Poppy. The fandom gets it. So Kieran and Poppy are talking while Venetta and Cass are arguing. And it is just so fun, because I literally picture Venetta, the real Venetta that the character is based off of, being like, Castile Denier, if you do not get out my face, I'm going to throw something at you. So Kieran tells her that being queen is the best thing that could happen to Atlantia. So when they leave for the capital, Poppy asks for her own horse. And so they're riding for the capital, and then all of a sudden arrows start flying at them. It's the freaking Unseen. So the Wolven attack, and they're fighting. Kieran takes the horses off somewhere. And I'm like, thank you, Jen, for that. Because every time they're like, oh, arrows are flying. I'm like, but what about the horses? So it was good to know that the horses were okay. So then in the woods, there's 24 more Unseen. So Poppy is like, you know what? Screw this noise. I'm using my power. So she does, and literally boom, kills them all and turns them into ash. So Cass, of course, Cass is like, that was hot, girl. So they get to the capital, and the buildings are huge and beautiful. And there's all these statues of the gods that were built by the deities. And the palace is made of the black stone to honor Nyktos. So they head into the temple and tell his parents that they've come to claim the crown. And so the king and queen ask why, and Poppy gives her reasons why she wants to be queen. And one of the elders of the council expresses concerns, and Poppy addresses those concerns. And then Valyn Eloana, the king and queen, crown Poppy and Cass and ask for the oaths. And it's just this really, Jen did a really good job writing this scene. It was just a really beautiful scene, and it would play out beautifully on screen, but it was beautiful in my head. So yeah. So Poppy asks for the crest to be changed to reflect that she and Cass are equal, because the position of the arrow and the sword were different on the crest to represent the different powers of the people in the relationship, but Poppy wants it to be made equal. And as soon as she's crowned, all the torches in the temple light up. So Poppy goes walking to give Valyn and Cass some time to talk, and the woman from the Red Pearl speaks to her, and Valyn introduces Miss Willa Collins, and it's like, yay, it's Miss Willa, like y'all, like that was just like this. Oh, I just love it. Like, I love that. Like, the fact that she's still alive and that she's on the council is like, yes. So, anyway, they get seated and, like, get down to business. And there's this Lord Ambrose who wants to discuss his concerns about Poppy. And the other one was, like, Lord Gregory or something. So, Poppy answers, but he just continues, like, to be kind of disrespectful. And so, Cass puts him in his place and tells him that he will bow before his queen or bleed before her. And I was like, yes! I've been waiting for that line this whole book, because Jennifer had posted that in a teaser, and I just love that line. And it's on the bookmark. The bookmark that was part of the pre-order goodies. Look at that. Yes. Yes, son. Okay. So the guy does bow and apologizes, and then Cass explains the plan. And then there's like several lords and ladies offer to go in their stead so that they don't actually have to go and meet the king and queen. But they're like, no. Willa tells them that Nyktos will probably be in the temple, which will look like, because they're planning on going to Elysium to talk to Nyktos about his guards. So they're like, he's probably going to be in the temple. It'll look just like the one here, but it'll be bigger. And she says, no matter what, do not, I repeat, do not go into Delos, the city of the gods. She's like, you'll know it when you see it. So then Willa and Poppy talk, and Poppy asks about Red Pearl, and Willa is a changeling and a seer. And so she felt the urge to go to the Red Pearl and to send Poppy to Hawk. And Poppy's like, but why? And she's like, well, I can't really explain everything. I just had this feeling. She's like, and I know that you were seeking freedom and sanctuary, but you weren't the only one. Cass was seeking sanctuary too. Someone that he could share himself with. So Willa tells her if she ever wants to ask any other questions, she'll be happy to answer them, or she can refer her to a specific chapter if need be. So Willa like makes her own joke about her own sex book. It's awesome. So Willa tells her that what is written in bone is different than when it's not, and it should not be believed. So it's like kind of this like riddle. And she says that what the goddess Penelope saw is not what the unseen believe. That Poppy is the one who will stand between what has awakened and the retribution it seeks to reap against man and God. Yeah, like what? Like that's some next level Grandma Papiri stuff. So Willa introduces Cass and Poppy to the public from the balcony, and I was like crying because it was so pretty. And they introduce Cass, I think, as the King of Blood and Ash, and introduce Poppy as the Queen of Flesh and Fire. Yes. So the people are celebrating. Back in their rooms, Cass and Poppy are talking with Kieran because they want to ask him something. And he's like, is it about the joining? So there was a joke about the joining too. And they're like, no, we want to ask you to be our advisor. So he agrees. And then Poppy realizes that Nyktos' guards are the Draken. And she's going to get to see a Draken, which are legend. It's a dragon. But they're legends, like nobody's seen one. Like they thought they were all extinct. So the next day they head out. The tunnels are accessed through the crypts. So they're walking through the tunnels. Freaking Vanetta falls through a hole. Vanetta. And she almost like Emil like has her by one hand, but we all know like a person's body weight's not going to be supported by one hand. So she's slipping. So Poppy uses her powers to like pull her out of the hole. And they keep traveling down the tunnel, and they see the mist. And so Poppy has to go ahead of everybody, and the mist retracts as soon as it touches her skin. So they make it to Elysium, and the air is like warm and smells like lilacs. And there's a wall of statues of women holding swords with their heads down and wings like splayed from their back. And it's completely silent, like no birds, no bugs, no nothing. It's like freaky, right? So as soon as they step onto the barren land that's between where they come out and where the statues are, dirt geysers start spewing up all around them, freaking holes everywhere. Somebody like looks in the hole and then comes back, and then all of a sudden there's a hand coming out of the ground, and Vanetta is like, you couldn't have warned us that there were armed skeletons in the hole. And Emil is like, I'm sorry, I was kind of distracted by the skeletons with swords. So Cass stabs the dirt heart inside the chest of one of the skeletons, and it literally like explodes. And there's holes exploding all over everywhere. Then the skeleton starts pouring smoke from their mouths, and it's like these black oily snakes that are heading for them. And Cass is like, babe, I think you might ought to go full deity. So Poppy calls on the ether, and like the soldiers all turn and start running for her. So there's all these skeletons, and like, y'all, like if that is not a freaking Game of Thrones and Brandon moment, anyway. But Poppy uses her powers and turns all the freaking, she shoots silver white flames out of her hands and hits all the skeletons and snakes, turns them into ash. And Cass is like worked up, of course, and kisses her. So once they get to the statues, they cross into a field of poppies and they get to the temple. And when they get out of the like grass, they're like walking on, the soil turns white and they think it's sand, but it's not. It's like diamonds. And beyond that, like, it looks like a whole city of diamonds. And they figure out that must be Dallas, the city of the gods. So they continue on, and there's a giant dragon statue in front of the temple. And Poppy, because Poppy's Poppy, rubs the dragon's face, and when she does, the stone starts to come off, and it turns into a real dragon. So it's like snarling, then all of a sudden it sniffs Poppy, and then it like kind of trills in its throat, and they turn around to see Nyctos standing on the steps of the temple. And so they all bow, except Poppy, because Poppy. And Nyctos is like, maybe, you know, since you're so full of yourself, maybe I should just kill him, talking about Cass. And she's like, you can try it if you want to. And he's like, well, I see proving your union was not a mistake. So he's like, come on in the temple and talk with me, but your friends got to stay outside because they'll die if they enter the temple. So he sits down at the table, pours some wine, and tells Poppy that he's been awake for 2 decades, but his consort still sleeps. And she's like, why haven't you done anything if you've been awake for 2 decades? And he says, you're so much like her. And then he tells her that there were other more primal gods before the ones that sleep now. So I think what Nyctos said basically is that only if they go in the mortal realm, they will lose their powers. That only a god that's born in the mortal realm still has their powers in the mortal realm. So the gods entered a blood pact with men that none can enter the mortal realm without weakening greatly and resorting to what is forbidden to keep their powers. So he tells her that her lover and friends can't stay there, that she only has time for one question. So she asks about the revenants, and he says they're an abomination. And he tells her that she needs to leave, and calls her the queen of flesh and fire. And he's like, you have the power within you, which is the same thing that woman said that she keeps dreaming about. You have the power within you. So back at the palace, the Lynn and Eloana have been teaching Poppy about ruling. Then Poppy meets Gianna in the hallway. Awkward. So Gianna was Alistair's niece, I think, that he wanted Cass to marry. So Gianna apologizes for what Alistair did. And Cass and Poppy come up with a plan. Like they'll send Vanetta and crew on horseback to the gates. And then Poppy and Cass will actually go via ship and meet the Blood Crown, like surprise the Blood Crown, because the Blood Crown will be expecting them to travel by horseback, but instead they'll travel by sea. So anyway, poor Poppy is like seasick. So Cass takes her in the cabin to distract her. He is very good at that. Very good. So Cass tells her that he loves hearing her call him Cass because when he was held captive, he felt like a thing to be used, and hearing someone say his name reminds him that he's a person. Oh, Cass. So they disguise themselves, head to shore. Poppy notices like tiny cracks in the rise, and there's this kid that starts to run out in front of a carriage. Cass saves them, and he's like, hey, what's up with the cracks in the rise? He's like, oh, they're from an earthquake. So anyway, they find, of course, a hole in the wall and sneak into the castle grounds. And they're walking through the tunnels under the castle when Poppy sees the caged cave cat, the same one that she saw when she was little. And she's like, wait a minute, that's that caged cat. So Poppy, of course, they're like, Poppy's like, we need to free it. And they're like, no, we need to go. Come on, Poppy. So Cass and Kieran are actually like walking on. They're going to leave Poppy. Poppy reaches in to touch the cat. And when she does, it shifts into a man with russet hair and bright green eyes. Yeah, okay. So Poppy wants to free him, but they're like, we can't because it's a bone, like it's made of the same bones that were used to like hold Poppy. They're like, we'll have to come back, or, you know, we'll bargain for his freedom from the Ascended. So they come down a hallway, run into one of the handmaidens. So then a bunch of guards show up and they're taken to Venetta and Company because they've already gotten Venetta and Company as they were coming through the gates. So Tawny is there. She's not ascended. So Tawny and Poppy hug and Tawny tries to warn Poppy, but Ian cuts her off. So the queen comes in, Ileana, and on her side is Malik, Cass's brother. Yes. Yeah. Like he in on it. So he tells them that the queen opened his eyes to the truth and she'll do the same to them. And the queen, like, apparently planned for Poppy to marry Malik and to take over Atlantia that way. Malik says he was supposed to be her ascension, and Cass, like, literally explodes and goes after her, but Kieran grabs him. So Ileana knows the whole entire plan, which, okay, for me, if Ileana knows the whole plan, and the only people that Cass and Poppy told the plan to was their friends, their inner circle, and the council, then somebody on the council had to have told what the plan was, right? Because nobody else knew. Like, there's already 2 people on the council that don't like Poppy. Anyway, so Ileana knew the whole plan beforehand. She refuses their offer to step down and let them take over the Blood Crown. She says she would watch the entire kingdom burn before she would give Atlantia a single acre. She counter offers that Poppy can claim Atlantia in her name and that they will remain the prince and princess basically in name only, and that they would allow the Duke and Duchesses of the Ascended to come and set up seats in Atlantia, and Valin and Eloana would be tried for treason. So then the queen tells them that they don't want to fight her. She has a huge army. She calls the handmaiden over and shows them what a revenant is. So she has a guard stab the poor revenant girl, and she falls over dead. But then, like, a few minutes later, she gets back up. So the queen tells Poppy that, like, you know, what are you going to do? Like, I've got all these revenants that can't be killed, or can't easily be killed, I think is what she says. I don't know what's happening with my hair here. But can't easily be killed. The queen tells Poppy that she is her mother. Queen Ileana says that she is Poppy's mother. She tells her that Cora, the woman Poppy thought was her mother, was Ian's mother, and Leopold, who Poppy thought was her father, was Ian's father. But that Cora was supposed to raise Poppy so no one would know that she was the queen's daughter. But she tried to escape with Poppy, and she was a revenant, and she actually survived that Craven attack. But the queen, because she betrayed the queen killed her. So Queen Ileana says that she is not a vampire, that her real name is Isbeth. Yes, she is Isbeth, Malik's lover. Yeah. And so in a live one time, in a Facebook Live, Jen had said that there is a reason that Ileana and Eloana's names were very similar. And I think now we see the reason, right? Because I think it was like a way for Isbeth to kind of like, to Eloana. So, and I thought she might be Isbeth because, I thought that maybe Ileana was Isbeth and Jalara was Malik. But that's not the case. We find that out in here. So she tells them that Eloana gave her belladonna, that she was Malik's lover, right? That they were heartmates. They were in love. Eloana, Cass's mother, was jealous of that and gave Isbeth belladonna to try to poison her. Malik found her and gave her his blood to ascend her. So because Malik was a god, the son of Nyktos, not the grandson, that made Malik made Malak a god or a deity or something anyway. So whatever he turned Isbeth into was not an ascendant. She's something else. We don't know what. So she says Malak killed the other deities and that Nyktos had 2 sons and Malak was one. And when the war started, Malak snuck Isbeth out so that she would be safe with plans to join her later with their son. But they never came. And so when she and Valen went to fight Atlantia, she went to the battlefield and she knew that her son must be dead. So Poppy tells her that she's like, look, that's horrible. That's terrible. What happened to you was horrible. It shouldn't have happened to you. However, you treat the people of Solus like crap. You have created the Craven, who are a nuisance at best, destroying the world at worst. And look how you treated me, supposedly your own daughter. So Poppy refuses the queen's offer. She's like, no, F you. Like, I will not, I'm not going to give you Atlantia. So the queen is like, kill him. And a guard, like, kills Ian. Just chops his head off. Dead end. Yeah. So Poppy flips, goes to use her power on Isbeth, and Isbeth literally laughs at her and then freaking force chokes her. Yes, like force choke, using the force. So Lyra, the woman that, kind of like doing things with Kieran, goes to attack Isbeth. Isbeth kills her too. So Poppy feels like she's being torn apart from the inside, which is exactly what she had planned to do to Isbeth. Castile is like begging. He's like, whatever you want, I'll do it. And because Poppy's just like screaming, she's in pain, she's lying on the floor, she's writhing on the floor in pain. He's like, whatever you want, I'll do it. And then finally he says, look, you want to control Atlantia, you want to control Poppy, then take me and you can control Poppy that way. So when Poppy wakes up, Kieran is there. Then all of a sudden she remembers everything and goes like all vengeful goddess, like literally just tearing everything up, like ripping the trees out of the ground all the way to the freaking city gates. When she gets there, the handmaid is there and stops her. She's like, these people didn't do anything to you. They are innocent. They are not the ones that took your husband from you. But if you keep going, I'm going to shoot you with a Shadowstone arrow, and it may not kill you, but it will put you down for a while. So Poppy asks where the queen took Cass. And the handmaiden is like, probably to the capital somewhere. I don't know exactly where she keeps all her pets. So, but she's like, but he'll be well guarded. And she's like, if you plan on fighting her, you better bring the fire of the gods, is what the handmaid tells her. So Poppy keeps trying to heal Tawny to no avail. Like, she's not getting anywhere. These black veins keep like spreading. Like, we don't know what Tawny was wounded with, but the queen wounded her with something and it's like spreading. So she's thinking about what Nyktos and the consort said, that she's had the power within her all along. She never needed permission to summon the Draken, because she went to ask Nyktos could she have the Draken, but he told her she had the power within her. The consort told her she had the power within her, so she never needed anybody's permission. She just had to come claim them. So they go back to Evamon, the capital, so that Poppy can get Tawny looked after. And Grigori is like, when she goes to confront the queen, Grigori's in there, and she gives Grigori what for. And Poppy goes off on Eloana, tells her that if she told them the truth, she'd been better prepared and she might not have lost Cass and Malik. She tells her that Malik is cozy with the queen. I don't believe that, because there's this moment, there's a couple of moments. There's a moment of hesitation before Ian gets killed. There's a moment of hesitation before they stab the Revenant. So I'm thinking that maybe, I'm hoping that Malik is Team Atlantia. I don't know, but I'm hoping. So anyway, Eloana apologizes, says it was her ego. She didn't want to admit that Isbeth won, that only Alistair and Valine knew that Isbeth was Ileana, and that Alistair killed Ileana's son, Isbeth's son, that Valine doesn't know about the kid or that Alistair killed the kid. Excuse me, y'all. Poppy tells her that Isbeth may have the Knights and the Revenant, but she's going to have the Draken. And so Poppy sends a messenger to tell the Crown that she'll meet with the Blood Queen in 1 week. And she tells Eloana that she's going to Elysium, and when she comes back, she's going to send a message that Cass would be proud of. So Eloana has summoned Willa and a healer to look at Tawny. And it's like kind of a weird, like Tawny's hair is turning white, but the black veins have stopped spreading. So it's kind of a weird thing. So Poppy is heading for Elysium. Kieran is going with her. When they get there, there's a man in leather pants, and it's Nectus, who is the dragon that Poppy, you know, when she rubbed him, the stone came off, in his mortal form. And he tells her that Nyktos is now sleeping with his consort. And so Nectus tells Poppy that Malik is not her father, it's Iris, his twin. And she realizes that Iris was the cave cat that they saw in the cage. So Nectus says that Iris and Nectus's daughter, so a draken named Jadis, were like lured to the mortal realm somehow. So they're there. So they want Poppy to find them. So Poppy asks what would happen if Malik was entombed, and Nectus is like, he would wither, but he wouldn't die. So Poppy speaks the words that the consort tells her to summon the draken, and dozens of draken burst up out of the ground and take off flying. So back at the palace, Poppy checks on Tawny, and Tawny's like still sleeping. It's like, almost like she's in like the Sleeping Beauty spell or something. So Poppy and Kieran head out. She's riding Seti, wearing the crown. And Valin joins them. He's in his armor. So Valin asks her to make Malik's death quick, which is weird to me. Like, I get it because at this point, he has betrayed Atlantia. So I get it. But at the same time, it's like, really? You've already give up on your kid? You know what I'm saying? So he asks her to make Malik's death as quick and painless as possible. So then they're all in the forest outside that Oak Ambler where they met the crown before. And so this time the King of Solus comes instead of the Queen has come to meet with her. And he's just being a complete jerk face, okay? Like, he keeps calling her the maiden and just being very, like, disrespectful. And Delano is, like, getting ticked. Like, he's growling at the dude. And the king just continues to be a jerk face. And Kieran attacks him, and then Poppy decapitates him. So then she kills all the knights, because the king showed up with a whole bunch of knights. She kills everybody. And there's a male revenant knight there, and he's like, your power doesn't work on me. She's like, yeah, that's true. And then about that time, Reaver, the purple black dragon, lands right in front of Poppy, like smacks the revenant with his tail and like crushes his chest in. And she's like, she hands him King Valin's, or not King Valin, that's Cass's dad, sorry y'all. She hands him King Jalara's head. She takes the crown off. She says, you can give that to Isbeth. I'm keeping the crown, and tell her that I will burn everything she holds dear, including Malik, if she harms one hair on Cass's head. Boom, the end. And she gives this epic, I don't want to say it because it's so amazing, but there's this epic, like, line that Poppy says at the end that to me just like makes the whole entire book. So yeah, that was a really long video. So that is the Crown of Gilded Bones, and Asite, which is the story of Nyktos and his consort, is supposed to come out next October. So that will be the next book. So we will talk more about Poppy and Cass and Nyktos and Sarah then. All right, thanks guys. Bye.